Hey y'all, it's Sim back at it with another Monday Motion episode. And here I'm happy to announce I am with entrepreneur and content creator Nick Anderson. Nick, thanks for joining me.
What's good?
It's been a while since I seen you on the hill, so it's good to get you back. And sit down and have a
I
conversation.
love I love you repping, man. I love you got the Nichols gear on roll bison. Let's fucking
Yeah,
go, dude.
I
I
gotta
love it.
represent. I still got pride. Still got the pride.
Absolutely.
But yeah, for those of my audience that don't know already, obviously, went to college together. You had a little bit of background working, working with some really reputable people, doing some sort of, internships, which grew into project management, and then you started working on some other projects, and you had a really cool start. So I think that's a really good place to start here. Is just you talk about, how you're able to network and find those people, and then kind of how you were able to transition to where you're at now. So just give a little bit of background there.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it all starts with like knowing who the fuck you are, right? Like, and I think that like process comes from you having a dialogue with yourself. It comes from the form of like trying shit, right? Like you remember, bro, like I was trying every club. I was in every different thing. Like I was trying to get as much out there as I could to understand from like just from a okay, how does this sit with me? Like how does this opportunity that I'm in what's like what do I like about it? What do I don't like about it, right? So I think from the perspective of like how am I able to generate these opportunities? Well, I can yap, right? Like I can I can connect with people, all right? Like that's kind of a lot of like the things that happen with me, but also like I'm authentic. Like I think that people see that. Like I really like what you see is what you get, right? The conversation that we have like on camera right now, I'm sure you could test this. I know you're on recording, but like fuck it, like you know that we'd have a very similar conversation, like very much off the camera too. Like it's the same dude, right? So like, I think keeping that level of
Totally.
authenticity into any environment that you're in, you're gonna have all types of people, right? That really fuck with you, and then all types of people that don't, right? You got to realize like when you are truly being yourself, like you're not always gonna like be like the liked person, right? It's just not like that's not the case. But that doesn't mean that I'm not like really kind and like really empathetic and like really want to do shit like with people and like be like a good person and good human. But also at the same time, it's like I don't sweat like when someone doesn't actually really resonate with what I'm talking about or the things that I'm pursuing. So yeah, I mean, I could keep riffing, but like I think I'm talking more broad strokes. I guess like I don't know. Do you want me to go into more specifics of like specific opportunities and stuff like that I've kind of like dove into or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great because I mean, you had a great point on, and I'll let you talk a little bit more about it, where you were talking about I wasn't able to totally 1,000% use my strengths,
Yeah.
and you had to kind of transition and figure out what works best for you, and now you're putting out content that's really gaining traction, and it's really awesome to see. But I'll let you kind of talk a little bit more in depth about all of that.
Yeah, man. Look, I mean, I think when I knew like shit was going well and right, like I guess I'll start from like the beginning of college, right? Like and we'll get into the like the all the other shit like down the line, but I think like I remember going into college like I there was this thing called Relay for Life and basically it's this event. It's from the American Cancer Society. I've had multiple family members impacted by cancer in all different ways. And you know, I had a really close friend growing up. His father passed away from cancer freshman year of high school. So I joined up with his team in high school, became co-captain with him the next year, and then I walked onto the hill at Nichols and realized there wasn't an event there. So I started from the ground up. Over the
It's
course
awesome.
of our 4 years, we raised over $100,000 for the American Cancer Society. Thank you. But like, bro, like that's all. Like the material, like this is a big thing that I've really wanted to key on, and like I just want people to like embody is that like the material things that come into your life are a direct reflection of your relationship with yourself. Full stop. Like okay, right? Like you can go out, you can be the best, most successful businessman in the world. You could have all the different accolades. You could have all the different shit, right? Like on paper, you look great, right? But if you're not going into work every day fired up, and you're not going home excited to see your family, your kids, and like, or whatever, like you're coming home to, like that inner game is just everything, bro. Like what,
So true.
in what world are you like, I came to this epiphany recently. It's like, oh, like with the Relay for Life stuff, right? Like I was leaning into a lot of like those key things that like I am like I get driven by, and like what I'm good at, and like all the center of the Ikigai, which I'm sure we can get into. Like with that, bro, like I just realized that the things that I was generating in my life, I felt great. Like it, and I was inspired by the work that I was doing. I learned that I'm a humanitarian entrepreneur, meaning I'm a very entrepreneurial person. Like I love to like help, but I also like really like am mission driven. Like I need to like have that sense of like, this is something that I'm really making an impact on people for. That's why the content thing feels so natural, like in all the like the context of like my career and stuff. Like, but anyway, regardless, like I started in a relay, did all that, right? Did a bunch of different clubs, sports activities. My roommate from college introduced me to this guy, Gary V, who it was our freshman year of college, serial entrepreneur, kind of talks similar to how I'm talking right now with a lot of passion and gusto, right? Like, I think like, you know, like he's definitely like a open with, like some people love him, some people hate him. And it's just, that's just it. He's authentically himself. And, I really was I gravitated towards that energy. Like I felt like, damn, like this is someone that like kind of like energetically gets it. So I followed along his content here and there, right? This is like my going into my junior year of college, right? And again, I'm skipping over a lot of different stories, but you know what I'm talking about. Maybe we can have like a 4-hour podcast at some point. I don't know. Maybe this might be 4 hours. Who the fuck knows? But
Who knows? I'm here for it.
But bro, I'm here. I'm here for it too, dog. I'll be in the trenches with you, man. Tonight, this will be fun. Yeah, you know what? All right, we'll do it. Summer 2019, I was interning for a commercial real estate company. I'm calling leads that haven't been contacted since like 2001. I'm in a 6x8 foot room, no windows, just a phone, a computer, a fake shrub in the corner. Just the most corporate 9-to-5 bullshit thing. You know, obviously, like the people there were great. It was an awesome opportunity. Learned so much about sales and like all those different things. Like I don't want to like bash like the company that I was at, but it wasn't me, right? Like we talk about like leaning into your strengths, doing the things like focusing your energy on the things that like actually fuel you. That was not fueling me. And so because of that, I was gravitating more towards Gary's content at the time because as a result. So at the time, and he still has the number, there's a publicly facing phone number that you could text, and it's like a direct line to him. At the time, he was posting screenshots and screen recordings of him replying to people to prove it was actually him, right? So the last week of my internship, I texted him, hey, can I intern for you? And 2 minutes later, he asked, when? Email this person. Now, mind you, like I don't even have a Z-list celebrity interaction at this point in my life. So I'm like, God damn, that's crazy. I text next summer, then I asked, what's his email? You know, reasonable question. Like if someone tells you to email, you know, it's like, all right, I'm going to go email. A few hours later, he posts a screenshot of our conversation with my full name at the top. This is Nick Anderson. And it says, if you want to intern for me and can't figure this out on your own, frowny face. He roasted me for not going out and finding this person's email myself, right? I am like, should I be pumped? Should I be pissed? What is life? Like, how do I like, okay, like, let's just look at the positive. Like, let's just roll, like, let's figure it out, right? So getting a whirlwind of emotions, like all these people are hitting me up. Like, it's just this whole thing. So I text him back, super disappointed, embarrassed, big lesson learned, won't happen again. Like found his email. I found out everybody's email. I CC'd everybody, same day, boom, send it. 2 days later, he replies to my texts. He says, exactly, now the good news, email me what you learned, Gary@VaynerMedia.com. I'm like, all right, bet, cool. Email him, same day, don't hear anything. A few days later, again, nothing. Finally get in touch with him. He puts me in touch with his brand director at the time. Now, imagine, just moving to my junior year of college. I haven't even unpacked my things yet. Everything's boxed up, right? I'm roommates with the kid that introduced me to Gary's content our freshman year. So it's like, you know, it's like exciting. I walk outside. I'm literally in fucking Olson, bro. Like, you know what I'm talking about. In Olson.
Yeah. All my Nichols guys watching, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. Shout out. Let's go. So I walk outside and I'm on the phone with this guy, like on Gary's team. And he's like, yeah, you know, you're still kind of young, whatever. We typically don't hire people your age, but it's been interesting ever since that article came out about all this. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? What article? There's this media publication called Ad Age. They're one of the top marketing industry media publications. They wrote an article titled "Gary V publicly shames an intern." Right? I was like, holy shit. This has gone so above and beyond what I thought. Oh my God. They have quotes from Gary about the whole situation. Like, just completely above and beyond, right? I won't go into the specifics of the article, but like basically it bashed Gary a lot, which like I don't think that they should have. I don't think that they like, yes, like on paper, like it looked like a crazy thing, but honestly, like I didn't feel like it was you know, I think that it was part of the journey. And like I think that people that will understand that dynamic will understand that like no, like you were just building your way up. Anyway, so I get off the phone with this guy, right? I'm with my roommate again, who introduced me to Gary's content our freshman year of college. Shout out Brian McLaughlin. Let's go.
Shout out, Brian.
Shout out. And I'm tallying up the score. I have an empty promise of an internship with an Ad Age's words of public shaming, which, oh, by the way, there's a fucking Ad Age article about this whole thing. What do? I find there's an event in New York City where Gary's a keynote speaker and front row tickets are relatively cheap. So I grabbed my roommate, Brian, and I said, hey, I'll pay for your ticket if you drive us to New York. Off we went. Now imagine, from the day I decided I was going to intern for Gary to the day I was standing front row in front of an entire crowd with microphone in hand for Q&A was 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
You know what the first words that came out of my mouth after these 2.5 weeks?
What's that?
Hey, it's me, Nick Anderson.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And you know what he said? He said, oh yeah, I was just thinking about you on my way here. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. Wow. And like we had a 7-minute conversation. Like it was all recorded. It ended with, we're going to offer you an internship. Standing ovation from the crowd. I'm like crying. Like it's like, I'm like, oh my God. Like,
it's so like, crazy because
like it's so a moment, bro.
So crazy you mentioned that because I remember watching that, and that's kind of where I was left off. Like I remember seeing that, and then seeing you around campus and just thinking like you're resilient as hell. Like you're a dog. You just go out of you go out of your way to go and get stuff, and I really, like I commend you for that. So that's funny that it's a full circle moment for me because that's remember like that's kind of where I left off, and I saw you, and I was just like, wow, he's doing his thing. So I just thought I would add that.
Appreciate you, brother. That means the world.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Then COVID happened and all got canceled.
Yeah.
All that shit, like that whole lead up, boom, done.
So crazy.
Finito. Over. So then I had to work my way back into Vayner, which like is a whole other arc, and like we can table that and riff more back and forth. I want to like have a more conversation. Like I don't want to just like have a monologue here. I want to be able to like I think that we can go deep on a few different topics. Like like what has stood out so far about like some of the things that like I've talked about? Like what like concepts or things that like you're like, damn, like that's interesting. Like
that's a great question. Though definitely just you, I feel like just you making that decision, because that's exactly where I'm at too, of like just making the decision to go out there and just do it and put a video out, whether it's a vlog or any other sort of other content, because and I know who are in both of our networks, and those networks stay stagnant unless you go ahead and you do something with it. So that's the reason that I went and created this podcast, and I'm seeing you like putting those vlogs out now, and they're already gaining like, and it's not even always about the numbers of people, but it's really just about the response they get and the value of people that that you're getting, I think is really important. So I'm just happy to, you know, be sitting back watching you, you know, post that type of content. You know, all in all, there was one thing that you had mentioned previously before. I can't remember off the top of my head.
The ego.
Yeah, say that again.
Ego thing. So basically, like what I realized, I had a moment recently where and we'll cut the details, but basically, like I felt the most myself in my life ever, just flat out, right? It was overwhelming as fuck. Like it was like, oh my God, wow. I felt this just ball of emotions of like thinking about this and that and oh, what will this mean? And like all this and just like it just kind of was like I felt like I was gonna spin out, bro. I was gonna crash out. Like at that moment, I'm like, oh, I need to figure out how to like ground myself. And then I realized like there's two things that like really grounded me in that, which were the only thing that exists is the present moment. Operating from now is the only way to move.
1,000%.
The other part of it was now that I've tapped into who I am, who I really fucking am, I've realized that nothing that I fucking do in my life, any material result that comes as of like my connection with myself, it's literally just a reflection of my relationship with myself.
Yeah.
Like none of the things that I make, none of the things that I like produce in my life are me. It's not Nick Anderson doing it. None of it. Like none of it. It's not me. It's literally just a byproduct of me understanding and loving and knowing myself. And I know that may sound grandiose. I know that may sound like a big thing, but when you really fucking do the work, when you put in the hours of like meditation and reflection and journaling and like all the shit and like trying shit and just like going out there and just like figuring it out. What got me there was my recent job, right? Is great. Whatever. Our company got acquired. Was told just before Christmas, hey, we haven't raised enough money yet. We want to bring you back on, but like we can't because like we just don't have enough money. I'm like, oh shit, okay. And then I just was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to fucking waste my time on anything I do anymore. I like only want to do shit that is really for me, like really leaning into my strengths, really fucking doing that. And I'm fueled by that now. I found that energy, bro. You know exactly what I'm talking about. When I was doing Relay for Life, bro, you remember how I was walking around campus? You remember that energy? You're one of the few people that fucking know that.
Yeah. Because I mean, I showed up, I saw you doing something and it just in you doing that, you're attracting the right people, you know, and I'm, you know, myself, but also, you know, anybody else that was involved with Relay for Life that might be watching this episode. Like anybody that saw you work and just create an event from top to bottom, you know, and you had your team as well, and just the standard was set really high for Relay for Life because just with the events that you would put on and you know what they were meant for. You know, you had mentioned that you yourself have experienced people with, you know, that have suffered from cancer. I have as well. It's, you know, God rest their soul for the people in my family and the people that your family that have passed from it. You know, when you have something like that drives you, it's really noticeable. And that's something that I saw because you're like you said, you're purpose driven. Your team at that time was purpose driven, and you went and created these beautiful events. Like even if it was like it might be something, you know, serious or fun, whatever it was, like you really tapped into what the goal was. Everybody was on the same page, and you really just cranked into it and got to work. And that's something that everybody that saw Relay for Life saw that.
And that wasn't Nick Anderson. That was Nana. That I didn't fucking do that, bro. I don't like. You see where I'm getting at? It's like leaning into your fucking strengths. There's this thing. Okay, we'll talk about. There's this thing called the Ikigai. I've talked about it in my content. It's a center of four things. It is what you love to do, what you can get paid for, what the world needs, and what you're best at. And at the center is what you should be doing in your life.
Right.
And at the combination of that, and getting to my earlier riff that I was going on, is like after that job, I took all the different assessments. I took all the different personality things, whether that's peer reviewed, researched, Big Five, like Ikigai tests, like or like, you know, all these different like personality tests on that front. And then I just said, there's probably something to like these spiritual things, right? Like these spiritual assessments, right? I'm a very objective first principles person. Like, I like to think I am. I try to be. If these structures have given value to individuals for thousands and thousands of years, right? Whatever like center feeling, whatever that like that level of presence in their life, like, I don't know. I just look at it as like your favorite flavor of ice cream. Like, it's just, okay, like, how do you get there? Well, you know, if it's, you like stones and crystals, like, versus like, I don't know, calculators, like, it's just like different. Like, you just have a different thing. And I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to dive in. I'm just going to see what's out there. I'm going to get all these assessments and everything. I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of reports, like from these different assessments, like on the intellectual and on the intuitive. I threw them all into ChatGPT and I just like started asking it questions. Just like, what should I do in my life? And, you know, what do I need? Right. Like, and after reading these different things and realizing it's like, so what really got me to, I was recently in Stockholm. What got me to Stockholm was one of the assessments was called astrocartography. So it basically, from my understanding, it puts your birth chart over the globe. Whatever you believe, I don't give a fuck. Like, whatever. I just was willing to try shit for several different areas. I think it's like 5 different areas of your life. It tells you, I think it's for like wealth and career success, love and relationships, spiritual growth, like past lives, like that kind of stuff. I landed, actually, funny enough, I was visiting Brian. He had a work trip in Paris, and then he just convinced me to come out and visit him in Amsterdam. The day I landed in Amsterdam, I got the results back. And I looked and I saw that for spiritual growth and for career wealth, you know, success, Sweden was in the top 2. And so I just said, fuck it, let's go. Let's see what's up. So I had the last 4 days of that trip open, booked my flight, got there. After like going to the most local bar that you could find in Stockholm, where the people literally were like, we've lived here most of our lives. We haven't seen an American walk in here ever. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And having like, I literally ended up having a 3-hour long conversation with like just some random dude I just sat next to at the bar. And then on the walk back, I just was hit. It felt like I was hit like a lightning bolt. Like I was like a lightning rod, right? And that was that moment of feeling the most myself I've ever been. But I also saw and was overwhelmed by the amount of possibilities for my life as a result of me leaning into that center ikigai. I saw all the different things that I could like materialize, like could bring into the material reality. But again, what I needed to hedge against is like the only moment that exists is right now. And we're operating from that framework of like the only thing that matters is right now. And then realizing again, none of the things that I bring into this world are me. It's always a reflection of my relationship with myself.
Yeah, that's some really profound stuff right there. Like in a real simple way of putting it, I say this in a lot of my episodes, and it's something that sounds really cliche, but control the controllables is something that I live by. It's just another way of saying that you live in the now, and you can't, anything that happens outside of that is obviously not in your control. So that's something that I completely, like, I definitely resonate with that. And like I said, it's a lot more simple put than what you had brought up. But I think that just speaks volumes. That's what I've been preaching, and you're coming on here and just saying the same things. It speaks volumes, because that's how my audience knows. That's how everybody that's been watching me knows that everything, all the information that I'm putting out here, that I put out here is real, and it's going to be repeated a lot, because those are little key ideas that everybody uses to be able to get ahead in life. And yeah, just control the controllables and live in the present moment. That's real beautiful stuff right there.
What brought you to that realization?
I'm glad you asked that. I've had a very different experience than yours, but with a lot of the same key factors. As you know, I started my background working in athletics. I was a skill development coach for a company, as well as working with Merrimack College women's basketball. Shout out to them for the same reasons of, like, I don't bash anybody that I've ever worked with. I've never, I actually love a lot of the people that I've worked with, and I have really strong connections with them, but I wasn't able to show my full potential. Same exact kind of principle right there. And I had to get over the fact that, like, okay, a lot of things in my career wouldn't go the way that I wanted them to, but then I kind of had to sit back at a certain point when a lot of things weren't going the way I wanted them to, and I wasn't in good financial standing, and I'm sitting on my in the basement of my dad's house, trying to figure things out, and it gets you thinking, like, why am I not controlling the controllables? Why am I not controlling what's in front of me? Um, and it's the same answer. It's I wasn't able to work to my full potential. So then I decided to build the Monday Motion podcast, where I'm able to show people what my full potential is. I'm able to network with a bunch of really great minds and bounce ideas off of somebody else. And I'm doing all the same things I love to do in a different format than the athletics world. But that's all the things I was passionate about in athletics, is how you were able to connect with somebody. There's a competitive piece to it that I like, but it's really about, how do I help, as for me as a skill development coach, is how do I help this person level up? And I'm able to do a lot of those same things with what I'm doing now. So that's kind of my answer right there. And I think that for a lot of the same reasons, I had to find my own way.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Like, why do you like? Maybe you could reword like a specific part of it, because I think like this may be helpful for you, right? Like when you say like showing your full potential, right? The way I think about my content in anything that I do, it's a journal entry to myself. I'm not out here looking to like, bro, I'm me.
Right.
And like anything that I like put out is just like what I'm thinking about. It's like it's a journal entry to myself.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I think like what could be valuable for you potentially is, instead of like coming at it like, because it's words are important, right? Like when you're coming at it from like an angle of, well, this is a thing that like I have to show my stuff, right? That may not actually be what you're doing. That may not actually, like, I assume that like, whatever the story is, like, right, that might not be your intent behind it. But like, isn't it more empowering to just be like, yeah, this is like me, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like,
There's that too. Yeah, that's really important too, because I've had to get out of that mindset of like I have to prove somebody wrong.
yeah,
Yeah, that was really huge. I'm glad you said that, because that's not what it is. What by any
yeah,
means,
because
because I
words are important. I assume
yeah,
that you're not in that spot. I don't think you. I don't get that energy that you are. But I think
right,
like maintaining that and like being on the right path, like using the right words, is like important to maintain it. If that makes sense.
1000%,
Yeah.
yeah, totally agree. So what it really is just me doing what I love to do in a new way. I guess is a better way of
Yeah,
wording that.
I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome, dude.
So it's all the skills. It's just figuring out that, here's a good way of putting it too, is figuring out a way to apply the skills you've already learned and you've already put to action
Mm.
in a new way. And like if you can take those same skills, if something doesn't work out, and you can apply those same skills that you've learned to something new, at somewhere down the line, something is bound to work out. I know people that have been at this entrepreneurship game for their entire lives, and
Mhm.
something finally hits when they're in their mid 40s or something like that, but they're able to, yes, look at it at a different angle and continue to learn, but those skills that they've been refining for their entire lives are just figuring out new ways to present them, and in doing that, then you have an avenue that's going to work out down the line, and that's really important too.
What's something that you've learned about yourself recently?
Something that I've learned about myself recently. I love the questions. Something that I've learned.
I'm flipping the script, bro.
I love
This is gonna be,
it's mind blowing. I
this is gonna
love
be fun.
it. So something I've learned about myself
Flipping the
recently,
script.
I would say that is, I don't need any sort of validation. Yeah, and that goes right along with everything we've been talking about so far. Is I don't need somebody else to tell me exactly what I'm doing is right or wrong. I am an open book, as you know, and I am more than willing to take any sort of advice to continue to improve, because
Yeah.
that's what this entrepreneurship and that's what this life game is being able to take information and utilize it. But if it's ever to the point where somebody's trying to tell me what I'm doing is wrong or right, like, okay, if it's right, thank you, I appreciate that. But and don't take this the wrong way. I take compliments as well, but I don't need that in my life to continue to go, because I'm not driven by what somebody else says. I try to be self motivated and self driven as much as humanly possible. So that's what I would say I've learned the most about myself, and just being around people like yourself, people like I've been speaking a lot to Lex Andrews. Shout out to her.
She's great.
She's awesome, and she's again somebody from Nichols, but
Mhm.
same exact mindset. You'll see that across the board with every single one of my friends that I continue to communicate with. Is we're all self driven. We're all, and I personally, I'm a believer, so I believe in God myself, but that's a discussion that I can have. But it's really those outside that outside factor. Me believing in God is a good piece of me, and I pray. But what I really need in my morning is, there's my prayer piece, but it's also my why, just in general.
Mm.
Like, what is my why? What are those pieces that I've learned through my faith that I can take, like, wanting to help others. That's something I learned through my faith. But now I'm able to take that small piece and apply it and say, all right, is that some, this is my, this is part of my why. Helping others, that's part of my why. I take the stuff that I'm learning through these self-help books, and I add that as another piece to my why. And if I'm not acting intentionally every single day towards my why and those things that I've written down, then that's an unsuccessful day to me. But it's something that I can control. You know what I mean? And it just continuously living. That's so. We'll do this, and I don't do a lot of this. We'll do this. I don't do a lot of this on my episodes, but that's a takeaway that I'll give my audience right now: is get a piece of paper, write down 5, 1 through 5, and type in or write in wherever you're at, your why.
Hmm.
And then whatever your values are, whether it be you have a faithful background, or whether it be, whatever drives you, take 5 pieces that apply to those things. Really, really simple, actionable steps. Like I said, for me, it's help somebody today. That could be holding the door for somebody, or it could be, it could be something as simple as paying it forward, like you see in the Dunkin' Donuts drive through, when somebody's getting their coffee. What did they order behind me? I want to make sure I get them. Something real simple that you can take and you can live out every single day. Something small, and you want to write down 5 of those things. And if you're not, tackling those 5 things, something that applies to each one of those categories throughout your day, then you got to readjust, and you got to learn, how can I live out my why? Because I know it's right there, like it's written down for me. It's right there. And if I'm not doing it, I know, because I go back home and I read it. It's right on my wall. I read it and I'm like, okay, I didn't do enough today. So it's holding myself to that standard, and that's a way of me, like I said, of holding myself to that standard, but also, a way of me teaching myself how to be self-motivated. So that's kind of the best tool that I've taken this far, and I've been able to apply it and just improve every single day. So that's me.
One of your earlier points I want to add to, like, Gary's talked about this, right? You don't need the validation, right? But like, it's also more about, like, for equal parts, like, that you hear the cheers. Like, basically, you don't want to hear the cheers or the boos. There's like, whatever the thing is, right? Like, whatever the validation is, whether it's positive or negative, right? The game is just like being able to just move and, like,
Just do it.
not hear any of it. Yeah, like, you can appreciate,
Yeah.
like, but like that feeling of, like, really, like, grasping on to, like, and holding dear, like, tightly, that those compliments or things, it's like, yes, like it's like it's nice and whatever, like, but you just move different. You just move with far more clarity around like who you are and what you're about in a different way. And I think like to your list, yeah, maybe I could offer like a different type of like strategy. It's just like I have a gratitude list every morning. So just every time I wake up, what am I grateful for? Right. For the last 2 years now, I get up every morning and do a cold shower. 2 years now.
I've heard a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people that have done that. What would you say are some of the benefits to doing that? Is it just
I do
like a
something I
mindset
don't
thing?
want to fucking do.
Yeah,
Like
I
every
guess
day.
so.
Like
That makes sense.
that's a muscle, bro. Like, yeah, like
Mhm.
there's a lot of like scientific things, like, oh, there's like you get increased amount of dopamine after, and like you're able to like, you feel charged up from it, and like it's good and all that. But like, especially in the wintertime, because I started Jan 1, like, so it was like the pipes are extra cold, and it's like you're new in New England, and it's just like the water is like extra, extra, extra cold. Yeah, bro, I do it for 3 minutes every morning. And like
Well,
I realize that like it is it's one of the most anchor, like having an anchor task in your day, just an anchor, like whatever like that thing is for you, that you just do once every day. When you're starting from nothing, when you can't even like get out of bed, when you're that depressed, that fucked up, that you can't, there's just no path forward, right? Often, I mean, obviously get your own help and like all this stuff. Like I'm not a fucking psychologist, like all this shit, like but like all the like all that. But
yeah, of course.
well, I know enough people now in my life that can attribute to this, is that find something that you can improve, like as small as it is. Like there's got to be one thing, even if it's like I haven't cleaned my room over the last 3 months, even if it's as simple as like moving the vacuum closer to your room.
That's the same. That's the same as mine in a way too, because I have my stuff written down to where I can see it. You move the vacuum closer to where to where your room is. At some point, you're gonna pick it up because it keeps reminding you, like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I love
No,
that.
and you might even go a week
Yeah,
and step over that shit. You might sidestep that thing. You might be like, you might be doing like a tango around it, like, but like to get into your room, like, but bro, it's like, it's just like that. And then like just trying to do like another little thing in that direction. I'm talking like,
Mhm.
because that's the most fundamental thing. It's like you could talk about like all these different things, like you can talk about like all these different tools and stuff, but like when you're starting from fucking nothing, bro, it might be sad the moves that you got to make. It might
Yeah,
be embarrassing how small that these moves got to be. There's a lot of people out there that are like that right now. It's and like a lot of people are afraid to admit it. There are many people out there that are quietly suffering because they have built a life around themselves, whatever circumstances, whatever got them to that thing, or whatever their born circumstances they're like born into, right? Like it's the stuff that you talked about, bro. It's like what was it, change the changeable or whatever, like whatever it was, like, bro,
yeah. Control the controllables. Yeah,
control the controllable. That's it.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
control the controllable. Like always a step, no matter how small, no matter how much you have to swallow your pride to be able to work from that place. There are things, if you ask yourself, what do I need to do, or like what thing do I need to improve in my life? You'll be in like really sit on it and meditate on it. You'll get smacked upside the head, bro, with the amount of things. If you really like want to know the answer, which a lot of people don't, like a lot of people do not want to know the answer, you'll know. You'll learn
Yeah.
real quick.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing too. Is a lot of people don't want to know, but the things that you don't want to know are gonna help you a lot of the times too. So, I like that. Like you said, it's you start your day with the cold shower, and I'll preface why I'm bringing that up again.
mhm.
It's you said that you were starting your day with something you didn't want to do. So that's automatically kind of like subconsciously teaching you that throughout your day, you're going to experience things that you don't want to experience. You're going to hear things
Mhm.
you don't want to, you don't want to hear, but it's how you respond to those things that truly matter. So I think that's really great. You know, you hear a lot of stuff throughout your day that you don't want to hear, but it's the way that you respond and your mental capacity to take that in and to respond it in a respond to it in a healthy manner that really matters. So yeah, that's great.
It's so foundational.
Yeah.
Like working from that place, bro. It's like
Mhm.
for some reason I want to say this, and like maybe this will hit for someone. I don't know. It just kind of came up for me intuitively to say it, but like he who has any why can bear any how.
I like that. I love that.
It's I won't take credit for it. I know it's an old quote, right?
Mhm.
But I just know someone's listening right now that is at that place that I just fucking described. I know someone that's listening right now. There's an area of your life, there's a thing, there's something where it's just not working.
Right.
It's just not. And a lot of people set up their goals and lives and things based on fears, insecurities, and whatnot, right? And a lot of people, I actually, here's like my hottest take. I actually don't even think that you can set goals until you actually understand who you are.
Right.
Because any goal that you set before you actually even have a slight grasp of at that, you're not doing things in that center of the ikigai. You're not doing all the like right. But I also fully acknowledge though that like there are people in certain spots where it's just like I just need to like do the muscle of like just doing, like because they're in such a shitty spot in their life that like they can't think at that higher level. And like I totally acknowledge that like you need to like food, shelter, security, like all those things. You got to do that first, right?
Yeah.
But like, if nothing in your life is working, it's far easier to start from zero and then go and do that audit. Everyone has fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone has 10 minutes. I don't give a fuck who you are. And if you don't, then you don't have a life.
Right.
Then this is your wake up call to break that shit up.
Hmm.
That 10 minutes, I don't know. What notice your breath for 10 minutes. Meditate.
Yeah.
The muscle of being able to watch your thoughts as a patient observer is one that is so underrated. Everyone in their lives ends up identifying with their emotions, ends up like pulling it in, and kind of like the compliment thing I told you about. Like, but it's just like they embody it into who they are as a human. They tie their worth into it. They tie like all these different like they almost like plug the wires into a wrong outlets, right? And like, oh, this is my validation circuit. Oh, I plug it into like this receiver, which is like just compliments. But like you in reality, you need to be able to like spend the time to ground yourself in the present moment, like we talked about.
Mhm.
And then to be able to say, well, from this place, what am I seeing? What patterns of thought are playing out? What are the thing? What like, and from that place, it's like you can really begin to see what you've laid out in your brain and your mind and your heart and your soul, all those things, and then work from that place.
Right.
And then be able to really start to change your life. The meditation is so important. It's so foundational.
Yeah. I agree.
I know I went on a tear. I said
No,
15,000 things in that, but
that's totally fine. That's a lot of great information, and I will say for me personally, like whether it's meditation or prayer or whatever it is,
yeah.
if you don't, same thing. Like I take 10-15 minutes out of my day to make sure that that I'm praying, and that's you know essentially the same thing. It's a 10 to 15 minute block where the worldly things and everything else doesn't matter, and it matters as soon as I get back into it. But I make sure that I take that block of time, because if I don't, then I start to lean back into not controlling what I can,
Mhm.
and freaking out about 1,000 things all at once. And I need to take that step back, take a few minutes, and just meditate, look at whatever scenery you're around, just think whatever you do. But take that block, because that little block is a reset for you. It's a factory reset. It really is. And it helps you to continue going with a clear mind. And that's really important too, is I don't want to make it too many decisions without a clear mind, because then that's where a lot of mistakes happen. So I 1,000% agree. If you don't have that 10 to 15 minute block, then everything kind of goes to shit. And
I'll say this: always be doubtful of decisions that you make at high highs and low lows.
Okay.
Like, you could be fired up, ready to go, right? If you're making a like key life decision, or like something like some sort of important decision where you're just like, I don't know, you're popping bottles and like you're ready to go, and it's just like all this, like, give it a minute, give it some time, give it just a little bit of time, get back to center. When you're depressed, you're down, you feel like there's nothing going, right? And then you're like faced with like, I gotta make this choice or whatever. Give it a beat. Just don't make that decision out of fear. Don't make that decision out of doubt or worry or like from lack. Give it a beat. Give it a sec. You tend to make better decisions when you're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that's that's really, really important.
Because that's who you are. That's who you are. Is the middle. Happiness is great, but it's fucking comes and goes. Like all emotions, bro. People, how many fucking people? This is a hot take too. How many people out there are just like setting their lives up around happiness? Like, as much as like, yeah, like, sure, no, like, I think it's like, I think really what they're looking like most, right? Like, the words are, again, words are important, right? Setting up for happiness, like, on paper, like, I'm sure that, like, obviously, like, when you speak to individuals, you can dissect and, get to the core of it, like, right? But like, as a broad stroke, like, when you just say, oh, I want to be happy, like, okay, I can go and like eat ice cream all day and be happy. I can go to like the casino. I don't know. Well, some days you are, some days you aren't, but like whatever thing it is, it's like, I've really been thinking about this. It's like setting up your life around like knowing who you are and starting from like the present, and then only doing things that lean into those strengths. But like before, like you really like go all in on something or another or whatever, give some time to really get to understand yourself. If you got a big fucking thing, give yourself a day. I got a fuckload of assessments that I could send. It's just like, I don't know. It's your life. Yeah, but also too, like, fuck it. I don't know. Like, if this doesn't resonate with you either, like, go. Like, everybody's got their own path. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, I'm just saying all these things, and it's like, I don't know you. I don't know your life, right? I know there have been plenty of times in my life where I just would say, nah, like, who the fuck are you? And then, like, I just go do my thing, right? But it's like, it's just so much more useful to know who the fuck you are. It's just, I think it's just one of the most practical things to do in your life is to give yourself time to know who you are. And as much as like, you could be in the worst situation, right? The worst. If you're not like giving yourself that space, it's like, because I want to be very careful how I approach this, because it's like, there are people out there that have horrible situations in their lives. Right. And it's like, there are scenarios where like you're just fighting to survive, and like that's real
for sure.
Like, we're privileged to the fact that we could just have this fucking podcast, bro.
Right.
So many people, like, I don't know, like, they kill to swap places with us right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And there's that too. But at whatever, I will say that that's a good point to make too, is at whatever level you're at, your decisions change.
But there's always a decision.
Exactly.
And there's like, no matter how, and again, and I know people are gonna like hum and ha about this, but it's just like, if someone else has been in your situation before, the same circumstances on paper, and has risen out of that, there's a fucking blueprint.
Yeah.
But you may not be in the right state of mind or place that be able to adopt or lean into those strengths at that time of your life, like that's totally exists, right? Like there are people out there that aren't ready to make those moves. I know people in my life where I've, after like, I realized this about myself that like I'm able to get to the core of who someone is pretty quickly. I establish rapport and I'm able to like really like go in deep with people. And that's just like, that's one of my strengths that I'm leaning into now. So like I've done that with a few people. And I remember this was someone in their 60s, right? I remember like getting to that core and then just like, they literally were like, look, they threw some heavy things at me of just like life experiences that they've had. They recognize that they need to probably sort through those things, but they have set their life up in a material way where it is, at least on paper, far less practical to work through those individual things in their life and to rock the boat than to go in and uplift their life. And this is someone that's like, I don't know, they're retired and like, it's some people, even as emotionally intelligent as they may be, just end up like, it's just like, yeah, like this is my reality. And like, I acknowledge that. Yeah, I'm going to have emotional outbursts. Yeah, I'm going to like not be myself in like a lot of different ways and do weird shit here and there and like have these like weird things that I do and like, and like you may often have to have a conversation with me. Well, what's the real problem? And then like you get into it and then like you work it out. But like there are just people out there that just don't. They're just like, nah, like I'm good. That exists, and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay, and that's okay. And I really respected them after they said that. It was like, oh no, that's okay. Like if you're at that place and you accept that and you acknowledge that, then more power to you. That's one that I haven't been able to articulate yet, but like that one is I think is really powerful, and not enough people talk about that. Not enough people talk about that specifically. It's like some people are just like, nah, I'm all good.
Everybody online too, when you see all these entrepreneurs online, all they talk about is the pretty side of everything.
Bro.
And that's and I'm so glad we're having this conversation right now, because that's all you ever hear is the pretty side of like I love what I do. You don't ever hear the cons of what somebody does, how they handle it, or anything along those lines. It's really all about, what looks good. So I'm glad you're talking about this right now, and that's super real.
Bro, I'll tell you this. I remember like at Vayner, right? Like as much as like I want to super preface it with this is like everyone at Vayner and the structure of Vayner was incredible. Everyone there was awesome. Loved it. Loved all the people there, all that stuff. But the specific function of my job in my role, I'm a creative entrepreneurial person. Yeah. I literally remember Gary asking me this directly. He was like, do you think are you a creative person? And I literally said, I don't know. Do you think that like Nick Anderson in college would have given that same response? Honestly.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I literally said, I don't know.
Wow.
And you know how fucking like EQ'd out I am like on shit. Like imagine that, bro.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. I remember the specifics of like office dynamics and shit. Like, dude, I was craving that person one-on-one connection that I need to be in the inbox. But this energy that I feel like, and you see from the way I talk and like all this, it's like, it's so big, like it's massive. And to put that on a shelf so hard in that environment, I think what a lot of people don't realize too is that Vayner's over 2,000 employees now. There are so many dynamics within that like being on an admin team from at that level for how fucking busy Gary was. That's not for just like someone that's never been an admin before. I was never a fucking assistant before. Like, can you imagine that, bro? Like you're walking into the NFL, basically. You're in like SEAL Team 6 of this shit. And right, like, but also like the thing is that I'm sure that like I have the ambition for it, but like as far as like the specifics of me, like that, like none of those specific like administrative things were my strengths at all. And like
Right.
all my gifts are like from this, right? They're
Mhm.
from me communicating. They're from me like going out there and like going to a networking event and just like, I don't know, on a whim and like connecting with this one person and then like it creates this one deal and it's just like that's me.
Mhm.
It's not 1,000 emails a day and being in that lane and in that box. Dude, it was like I remember like I just felt fucking weird. And it's but again, like I want to make it really clear, like it's not the fault of like anything with Vayner itself.
Right.
Like
It was
this
your,
was
it
my
was,
game. This
yeah.
is me. Like
Mhm.
this has nothing to do with like Vayner at all.
Mhm.
I have nothing but good things to say about Vayner. This is
Right.
my fucking thing I had to deal with.
Yeah. And like I brought up previously too, is the same thing for me with Merrimack.
Yeah.
It was an internal game. It really was. Like I got to the level I wanted to. I was networking at the level that I wanted to at the Division 1 level. And at some point I was like, okay, I'm networking here and I'm making these relationships, but again, I'm not utilizing the skills and the gifts that I had or that I have that are really that valuable.
Mm.
It was a lot of, again, the administrative side of things. I was doing statistics over there. I was, I was a part of some of the here and there the skill development side of things, which was what I did, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me because what I needed at the time, and I'm sure you feel the same way, is that human is more of that human face to face interaction and connecting the dots and networking. Like that's personally what I needed, and that's how that's how I was able to take a step back and adjust. But yeah, I think that there was I was actually just watching this the other day. It was a football interview. One of the football coaches, he said something along the lines of like he was talking to the media interns for the at the SEC or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, and he said something along the lines of make 5 relationships in your field and connect the dots between them. Make 5 relationships and connect the dots in between those relationships. And that was something that I learned on my own that I saw him say later on. And I'm like, that is one of the most valuable things you could give anybody because then that makes you kind of the mediator between those relationships and you can do whatever you want with them. For me, it's the podcasting. I have a couple of other things that I do outside of the podcast, partnerships and things like that I promote. But I had to go and put the work in to make it make sense, to make what I was doing make sense and kind of connect those dots and make it a viable business. Yes, but also but also just to continue to do what I love to do and talk to people
Mm.
and be able to deliver this real information. So that's where my value, and it sounds like your value is quite similar in just being able to understand how to connect relationships and how to and how to grow using relationships and using conversation. That's something I think is really valuable. But yeah, you got anything else there?
Bro, I mean, why do you want to give me the real? Like, why do you want to do this podcast? Like, give me your real fucking answer. Be honest.
I don't think there's enough real information out there when it comes to how these industries work.
What bothers you about that?
I think that a lot of what bothers me the most is yes, I know as a person that you have to experience things to understand what works and what doesn't. But I think that there's a lot of information that's missing,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you go into college and you take that journey and you look at applying for jobs and working your way up. I think that a lot of industries, not just athletics or not just crypto or not just, I think that a lot of industries in general don't give you really important information about what could go wrong. And yes, like I said, you have to experience that on your own, but I want to be able to be that person that can, say, look out for this or look out for that. It's something that I experienced. Just make sure that you're moving in an appropriate manner. Do with that information what you will, but that is what could go wrong because those are the things that people never told me. Something in specifics is I was I was doing everything I wanted to do. I was working in the nonprofit industry. I was working with a bunch of nonprofits, helping kids, putting on different events, community events, things like that. And what they don't tell you in the nonprofit world is, yes, you're going to be doing a lot of the things that you really love to do, and it's really, really rewarding. But that word rewarding is the part that frustrates me the most, because for me, being somebody that was quite honestly broke myself, they didn't tell you that the ability for you to make this a long-term career and have it actually be something that is
Just lucrative.
that's lucrative, that's the word I was looking for, is it's very low. And
Mm.
I'm doing all the things that I love to do, but there still is that piece that it's not really lucrative. There's not a whole lot of growth unless you go and create a nonprofit on your own time, and you build it up that way, or you have it just be a piece of you and volunteer your time. So that's just an example of something that I learned, that I had to learn the hard way in that industry. And, it was really hard for me because I loved what I was doing at that time.
Mm.
But that lucrative, creating a career is something that's really important to college kids at that time, because and they're looking for that guidance and that real information about what industry is really lucrative. And I feel like once you figure that out, that's another thing too, is a lot of people are so close-minded to a lot of industries, and that's a problem, because I think that once you figure that piece out of, okay, what's going to pay me, then all the other stuff kind of falls into place in a sense of like, now now I have to work my schedule out, but I can put my effort towards something else I want to do. Once I have that piece of, I found the industry that pays me, now I can expand out to the things that I really want to do. And that's what nobody ever told me, which is why I kept, I was such a hard-headed, like, I don't know if you recall, but in college I was really hard-headed, just focused on one thing. I was in the gym all the time. I was working with athletes, which was great. It was awesome. You know, I, that's my family, and I talk to a lot of those guys to this day. But the thing that nobody ever told me was that once I have the lucrative side of things figured out, and once I have what I can make a career out of, then it opens up opportunity to do more of what I want to do. Why the podcast, and that's why I get people on that have stories that can give that type of information.
I love that, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have who's like your dream guest? I gotta know.
Funny story. I already had him on, so it was actually pretty.
Oh, bro.
There's always. I'll say this.
Nah. You can't just be saying that, bro.
So I can't say that, because there's always somebody. There's always somebody else. Once you complete one goal,
But who's your number one?
there's always guests. So the person, I'll give you this story. So there's a guy, as you know, like I mentioned, I was in the skill development world for about 7 years, and with that, I built a lot of really great relationships online, in particular, just chatting it up with people in the skill development industry.
Yeah.
One of them by the name of Drew Hanlon, who is a huge skill development trainer. He's probably the biggest, or one of the top 2 or 3 biggest skill development trainers in the country. And I never thought I would have a conversation with him. My first year at Nichols, I was tasked with an assignment to do an informational interview with somebody in the athletics industry. And everybody else was kind of reaching around to the local, like Worcester area, like the Woo Sox and the minor league teams, which was great, and they had a lot of really great information. I was like, but I need to make this something more. And I shot an Instagram DM out to Drew Hanlon, and I was like, I would really appreciate your time, just get some information about what it is you do, how the industry works, and I just need about 15 minutes of your time. So he responded to me within a couple of hours, which I never thought would happen. He has hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. He trains, Jason Tatum and all these great athletes, and he responded to me like that,
Mm-hmm.
which to this day I thank him for it. Like that was awesome. That was, it opened up a lot of opportunities for me, just for him having a conversation with me. So I did that interview, long story short, and then I kind of reached out to him every single time I had a question about something in particular with the skill development world, kind of built a relationship with him online. And full circle moment, I leave the I leave the coaching world and I'm like, all right, who do I have that I've spoken to that would be really cool to have on the podcast? I reached out to Drew again. I was like, okay, so now I spoke to you before. I was in skill development. I was in college. Now I've kind of switched gears here. I started this new podcast, and I think it'd be really valuable to get about a half hour of your time to do this to do this podcast episode. And he's just, for somebody that's so busy, it's mind-boggling to me, or seemingly so busy, it's mind-boggling to me how open he is to those types of opportunities, especially when he's not in the off season, which is when his busy time is, because he's a skill development coach. So when they're not with their teams, he's the guy that's working with them. You know, right when he said, yeah, when the NBA season starts, hit me up again and we'll make it happen. I hit him up again during the NBA when this NBA season started, and we got the podcast episode going, and it was a really, really great, really valuable information. You know, a lot of really valuable information in there, especially for the audience that I have, which are athletes that are looking to kind of supplement their income and become a little bit more stable. He's really one of those guys to look at when it comes to that. So he's somebody that I really, you know, long story short, he's somebody I really respect, and I was already blessed enough to be able to have him on. I think there are a couple other names out there that I'd like to have on there, but I will say I don't want to put that out there just yet. We can talk after about a little bit more specific about who those people are, but I don't like to share a lot of my goals that I've yet to do, just because, you know, this is something you learn in the business world, is don't give anybody anything to attack. Once you give somebody something to attack, or say that, oh, he didn't deliver us this and he said he would, or she didn't deliver that and they said they would, then it becomes a problem. If I never say those things and then all of a sudden I have that huge guess, nobody has anything to attack, and they just see the growth. And that's one of my goals, and one of my things that I look to emphasize towards everybody that's watching this podcast is you know, don't give anybody anything to attack. Put your head down and work, and then people will see the results. So that's kind of my takeaway.
Can I end with sharing something like that's kind of like the way I see like this next chapter, like in my life?
Man. Yeah, go for it.
My goal, my mission is to help others help themselves to help the world. More specifically, I want to help others understand themselves and know themselves and love themselves, so that they can have an immediate impact on their environment and everyone else around them, and allow that to sprout throughout the world.
Right. Now, I will ask you this. Is there any specific things that you've been kind of working on, or any actionable things that you've been working on to make that happen?
Yeah, content, bro.
Just content?
And then also my buddy and I, Calvin, we're working together on a couple things. Engine.fm. Go to engine.fm. If you're a B2B founder or someone that is a B2B executive that is looking to have just better meetings, have a higher conversion rate for your sales and business meetings, like we're your people. Yeah. Awesome. Both former Vayner guys, right? Mm-hmm. We're building people's personal brands via podcasts, actually, funny enough. So this might actually, be interesting. And like like the story is that like Calvin was a former Vayner guy. He left Vayner, started a marketing agency, built that up. Ryan Serhant, Serhant Real Estate. He has a Netflix series and stuff. Like I think it's Owning Manhattan. He got bought out by Ryan Serhant, became the head of social media at at Ryan Serhant's real estate company, and then left and then started this company, which I'm starting to join forces with him. And also like mainly, which like the real thing that I give a fuck about is like you just follow nader.eth on socials, because like that's really the big mission thing for me, right? Like just wait till you hear this, bro. Just wait till you see this next video drop. Like I might even riff on it too, and we could clip this maybe. I don't know, but like I open my Instagram often now that I've like started to like post content and like be around like these groups. It's all buy my ebook, buy my course, buy my this. Bro, I'm gonna break the fucking mold for you right now. You're in a sales funnel. Most of these people out here that are posting content, that are putting themselves out there, that are recording all this shit, are just looking to convert you into a fucking, like you're a sale.
Yeah.
And then they use emotions, they use like fear, they use all this bullshit to get you sold to an idea that you can't fucking do this without them. And I'm kind of rip shit about it, to be honest with you. And because, right, like you're gonna like tell me that like all these people out there that are just like empowering others and like doing this shit, but like have a link in their bio to like convert you. You're telling me that like this person's just like, that's why like I built a like I want like, okay, sure, like I'll tell you this, like insofar as like if someone wants to book me to speak, and if someone like this, like a very successful person that's like willing to shell out real money to work with me one-on-one, that's very different. But if you are someone that is just consuming content on social, and if you follow my page, you're not going to fucking get converted. I can promise you that. Like I can just, there's one promise I can make to you is that anything I put out is just because it's like a diary entry to myself. It's something that like I want to genuinely share with the world. And it's not based in like me trying to fucking sell you. Right. So let's follow along for the journey and let's fucking ride. Let's go. Let's like be better. Let's understand ourselves. Let's be ourselves. Let's cut the bullshit and let's let's just fucking grow.
Right. And that's why I'll say this. I do have those things, but the
all
only
the time,
reason,
bro.
but the only reason I'll say that I have them is because, and I'm very honest about these things, is I do have expenses. I am trying to turn the Monday Motion into a long-term
Absolutely.
thing, and that takes money to be able to do. But one thing that I will never do is the hard sale. You'll never.
Oh yeah. Look, let me also like I'm sorry, I forgot an important part of that riff was that there are people out there that are actually providing real shit. Like there are so many like
Right.
but that number is really small. The number of like people that are actually like really delivering value and like give a fuck and like they're too busy like posting their next piece of content like to actually give a fuck about like what your your inquiry is or if your results are actually like hitting. Like most of them are not. They don't give a fuck.
Right.
And so
1000%.
But I agree with you though that there are like there are individuals out there that are building things that are real and that are valuable, right? But I just feel like I can on the like combining the intellectual and the intuitive on building a better relationship with yourself, like in general, and just pursuing things that like are actually meant for you. And then also just like pointing out the fact that most of these people out there that are actually like just posting like this stuff are looking at you as a sale. Like, and there's just no, like, if that is in the bio, I don't give a fuck. Like, yeah, sure. Like that could be like their intent, right? And like, yeah, that could be their thing, right? And this is probably my most controversial opinion, but like the purity of like the ideas being shared, it just taints it. It's just a little bit. And no matter how much you try to like get around that, I don't know, hot take. I don't think that you can. Like, I just don't think that you can get around that. You know?
There's a little something that everybody's looking for, little thing called monthly recurring revenue. That's all they're trying to get out of you. That's why you see everybody charging you a monthly price for their pages. And I'm making the decision to change that now because I'm starting to understand now. I have a Patreon page, but what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to make that subscription completely free, and I'm going to put out anything that I've written as a one-time charge. So that's something that I look at doing because everybody has the same model online, and they're just looking for you to buy something, forget about it or not. They don't really care about you, and it just get a sale out of you. So that's not what I do by any means. It is there for you to purchase if you'd like, and that's just the way that I go about it. And if you go like you said, if you go to your page as well, there's nothing there that's gonna push you to buy anything. It just doesn't happen.
The only things I'd literally say is just like, okay, subscribe to my Substack, like, because I'll like start pushing content there, and then like, I don't know, I've like played around with the idea of like donations. But I don't know, like I haven't thought about it enough yet to be able to like
Mm-hmm.
decide like whether that feels right or not. But yeah, bro, like I don't know. If you're looking to write a fat check for me to speak at your event, I'll do that. And if you're looking to write a fat check to work with me one-on-one, great. But like I'm not converting the normal individual. Like
Right.
if you want to donate and shit, like that's different. Like whatever, maybe I don't know. I haven't figured that part out. But regardless, like
Mm-hmm.
follow Nader.eth, check out Engine.fm, DM me if you're interested in working together. Let's fucking rock.
For sure. That's awesome, man. The last thing, this is the Monday Motion. It does have a little bit of a inspirational background to it. I started this podcast doing a quote every single Monday. It wasn't even a podcast. It was me doing similar to what you do. My videos were significantly shorter, and I would just go on Instagram and put out an inspirational quote for somebody to start their week out with. So that's how I like to leave these episodes off. Is there any sort of quote from a book or just something somebody told you that you could leave my audience with that would get them a little bit uplifted for Monday?
There's a couple things.
Okay.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
There you go.
Know and love yourself, because who the fuck else will?
Damn right. Damn right. I like that. Yeah. If you don't love yourself, again, that doesn't always look like we mentioned before, that doesn't always look like doing what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
Do what's going to help you get better.
It's the center of your ikigai. It's like, what do you love to do, what you can get paid for, what the world needs, and what you're best at.
Yeah. There it is.
That center, only do that.
It's the money spot.
Decision, like, bro, anything that's not in that, bro, forget it. Don't waste your time. Stop wasting your time on shit that isn't for you. Stop it. I know you are. I know you still are. I know everyone does. I'm sure there are areas in my life where like
We're human, but to the best of your capabilities, you gotta find that spot that's gonna bring you value.
and then you can bring value to the world and can
You're
get
right.
paid for, and what you're best at and what you love to do.
Right. All right. I think that's a really good spot to end this. I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time
course.
to do this. This was great.
I'm excited to hear how people take my hot takes.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them in there. I like it.
Yeah, bro. I'm like, I'm ready for it. I'm ready. I'm like,
Awesome.
I'm ready to like, battle test the ideas that I'm really like trying to hone in on. Like, I want people to like come at it. I want people to, refine these things, because like, I can only know so much. I can only have a certain level of perspective. Like, this whole game is literally just like, okay, how can I like play with the levels of perception like an instrument?
Right. I love that. That's great. Well, I'm really excited. I will say that I'm really excited to see some of the comments, some of the interaction in
Yeah,
this
bro.
one. There's a lot of like you said, there's a lot of hot takes, but there's also a lot of really just valuable in general, just valuable information in there. So thanks again, and I'm definitely gonna reach out to you when this is done. See what else we could do together. I'd love to be involved in more stuff with you. You definitely have a lot of really philosophical. You have a philosophical side to you, which I appreciate because it forces you to think deeper. So I'm definitely gonna
It's
reach
where
out to
I'm
you
most
more.
comfortable. It's where
Yeah.
it's like my it's my dance. It's like my like I wouldn't even necessarily say that I'm a crazy well-read person. I try to read. I try to like do that, right? It's mostly out of self-reflection, and also podcasts and things of that nature and whatnot. I'm reading more. I'm reading at least like a little bit of a book every day. Like, I'm doing that. That's part of my practice too. But like,
Yeah.
wisdom is knowing you know nothing.
Wisdom is knowing you know nothing. All right. That's hit me with that one more time.
Wisdom is knowing you know nothing.
I think that's a really good. You're getting me to think a little bit too deep now.
You got me on my Aristotle
Yeah.
way, bro. You got me on my
Yeah.
Socrates, Marcus
Yeah.
Aurelius,
Yeah, that's funny.
Plato. Fucking,
Oh my god. Yeah.
you got me on, bro. Like, you got me
You're
on
a
my
book of
Nietzsche,
information.
my Carl Jung. You got me on my like,
Mhm.
yeah, bro.
You're just a book of information, and I love that. And I think that this episode's gone for quite some time, but I'd definitely like to talk to you about running it back because
Oh yeah,
there's definitely a lot more that we could talk about in the future
bro.
for sure.
There's I hope to do it in person at some point too. That'd be fire. But like
Yeah.
I think like we can figure out specifics around that. But like, you know.
Comments, let me know. Nick Anderson, first podcast in person. It could be a good one. Let me
Who's
know.
got a
All right.
studio? Who's got the studio that we can rent out?
That's another
Who
thing
who can hook it up?
for sure.
Yeah,
Well, all right, man. Thank you for your time. I'll
of
talk to you
course,
soon.
brother.
All right.
All right.